So today we get to work with a red Factorson conure. If you've never seen one of these before, you're in for a treat. They are so beautiful, and Cosmo's no exception. So today, Tiffany wants to work on recall training, which is Dave's favorite subject to work on with birds. The only problem, Cosmo's not flying today. Cosmo's actually not doing much of anything today.
So this time I'm going to ask you to do a step up, but give him the treat when you put him back on the perch.
All right. Step up.
Nice. And then put him back down for the treat.
Step up. Good boy.
Cool. So what we're doing is we're starting to build a reinforcement history associated with the T-stand. Meaning he's going to start to look forward to being on the T-stand because that's where all these treats are coming from. Rather than you doing the treats on you because you're already a lot of reinforcement,
Right.
make sure all the behaviors we're doing right now are rewarded back on the T-stand. Cool. And then let's see, I'll have you do a flight, but then go ahead and give the treat when you put him back on the stand.
So I would stop asking for a little bit just because he's not responding.
Right.
So think about what you can change this time.
Wait, foot. He's too scared.
Okay, so we'll go back to what was working. Let's do targets, but make him move a little bit left or right.
You touch?
Nice, and that was a great use of a reminder. It's not necessarily a lure. She's just saying, hey, you're spacing out. Remember, I've got a bunch of $100 bills over here. Do you want to earn it? He's like, oh yeah, I do. Right? It's a great little reminder. And it was far enough that he didn't think he could just go over and grab it. It was at a good distance where he saw it, but wasn't being like teased and going for it and he pulled it away. That was really well done. Do more than just 2 steps. And then what I want you to do is be aware that if he refuses, we'll pause and allow a brief 15, 20 seconds of failure, and then we'll try again.
Touch?
And let's take away the opportunity for about 15, 20 seconds. So right now he's possibly thinking like, how come I didn't get the treat? That's weird. So rather than going in and giving an easy behavior, we'll just allow time for him to think about his choice. Just go ahead and step back in and ask for that same thing again, trying to get a little movement. So might have to flash a treat, hide it again. Let's see. We'll go ahead and pause. So this time, whenever we do something we're allowing failure, I implement what I call the rule of thirds. And that is out of every 3 attempts, we need to make sure the bird has 1 success. So we don't make the bird have more or less an extinction burst. So this time, we know we've had success going to the other side, so let's start there and just get a small step. I think we got 1 or 2 steps that direction last, so let's try to get that. They are training you to lower your criteria to match the energy level that they're willing to put forward.
Good job.
And so that was why Jamie was like, hey, can you make him move a little bit this time? Versus resorting to like, let's do an easy behavior.
You touch?
Yeah, your clicker timing looks good. I think the behaviors look good. It's just his motivations.
He is warmed up a little bit. I wonder
Yeah.
if he would do a little hop, especially if you held the target where he had to touch the target to hop onto your hand. If we want to just try to get him in a flight
Like
mode.
a 1-foot hop.
Anything.
And let's go and remove the opportunity for a second. We'll wait about 15, 20 seconds. The face wiping typically is a sign that they're full, that we're done. But we'll try anyway, but it just, historically, that's what that 98.9% of the time means. That they're full enough that they're less likely to do more reps, but yeah, we'll try again. Put your hand slightly, oh yeah, I was gonna say lower, but yeah, you're good there. I won't be able to do it because I don't have trust with him, but I'll walk you through what I would do, is that I would ask for a flight by having the treat in the other hand. We get the flight, and then we put him back on the perch to reward. So that with enough repetition of that, instead of going to your shoulder, he'll look back to the perch and he'll start putting himself back to the perch so he can hurry up and get the treat.
You just look so sleepy.
This is just gonna be hard no matter what because we just don't have motivation.
As much as we would love to work on flight training with Cosmo, because he's not offering it, there's no way to really work on this. And the problem is in the diet, not what Tiffany feeds, but in how much and how she quantifies it. So in the past, she had struggled with diet conversion. She had gotten Cosmo a little too hungry. And so now it's kind of this sore subject where she's really worried, since she's gone for 14 hours a day, about her bird going too hungry. And so because of this, she wasn't really sure how to prepare for this masterclass today and have him have some sort of motivation. In the very beginning, when she took him out, she's like, I think he's too hungry. He's just kind of shutting down. This is what he does when he gets too hungry. But Dave and I weren't seeing signs of a hungry bird at all. He showed no interest in the treats. We even tried using seasonal feeding breakfast. He didn't want to have anything to do with that. We saw a lot of avoidance behavior, and although we got a little bit of some motivation to do a little something, it wasn't enough to warrant flight training today. In our family-friendly parrot formula videos, we break down what motivation looks like on a 1 to 5 scale. 1 having 0 interest in wanting to work with you and wanting to train for treats, and 5 being so focused on the treats that you have way too high of a motivation. We talk about which levels that you want to range for and you want to aim for when training your bird, whether you're trying to maintain behaviors your bird already knows, or you're focusing on new behaviors you're trying to train. So head over to our website, birdtricks.com, if you're interested in that immediate digital download. Some of the terminology that Tiffany used today was, she was like, oh, he's really scared of this environment. He's a really skittish and fearful bird. So Dave and I kind of assumed that we were going to be dealing with a bird that was heavily avoidant today and overwhelmed by a new environment. But Cosmo wasn't. Although he was unsure of the brand new stand that he had never been on, there was no way that I would label that bird extremely fearful or terrified or anything like that. We didn't see excessive fear by any means. And when I simply prompted her to just use a treat to kind of lure him onto this new unfamiliar thing, and that worked, I thought, this bird is pretty normal. Most birds would be wondering about this new apparatus, and we would just have to help them understand that it's non-threatening.
So it's a really important lesson there. We're building emotional intelligence by saying there's an irrational fear of this inanimate object. Let's work through it. A lot of birds that are shoulder rushers do so to avoid the discomfort of the unknown, or we could say maybe even fear. So since one of the labels you added to this bird is that he's skittish and fearful of new things, then this is a really good way to, don't just accept that he's fearful, say, oh, you're afraid of this, let's work through it.
The most Cosmo was willing to do today was a little bit of targeting. We eventually got him to actually travel on the perch instead of just touch the target right in front of his face, but we couldn't even get a hop to Tiffany. So we were helpless today on being able to work on any sort of flight training. One of the things I noticed right off the bat as we tried to put Cosmo in after the first initial session, just kind of realizing we didn't have any food motivation at all, I noticed that she was having a hard time getting him back into his carrier. And when I asked, hey, how'd you get him in there in the first place? She admitted that she had had to initially force him in, which we forgot to ask about. Normally, we always ask people, are we gonna have a hard time getting this bird back in the carrier? Totally forgot to ask Tiffany that. Unfortunately, with that paired with how she was having to get him in the crate, which actually ended up being Dave having to get him in the crate because she was just fighting trying to get this bird, we did most of our learning by talking in between sessions. One of the things I noticed was a trend in this class, because we actually had 2 conures being worked with, is that people weren't rewarding for just a basic step up. Cosmo especially was trying to avoid having to go back in the carrier, and he was stepping up so nicely from the head and any other position. He was even stepping up to other people, and he was never getting reinforced for his good behavior. There was one point where he flew back to the T-stand, stepped up nicely, still didn't get reinforced. He kept just getting grabbed and pushed and prodded and made to do things. And although I can see where Tiffany was coming from, because she didn't have another choice of how to get him in the crate since we had 0 motivation to even have a session around that, it is just, again, emphasizing the importance of crate training. I know that a lot of people don't put a lot of weight on crate training because we rarely use it. We only use it when we're taking our bird to the vet or something of that nature, but it's really, really important. You might have an emergency evacuation, you may need to board your bird, you may need to rehome your bird or put it at a friend's house for some reason, you may need to travel with your bird, you may want to get your bird some sunlight outside. There's so many different uses for crates that don't just have to revolve around a vet. So I heavily encourage all of you to please crate train your birds. You can either condition them that that's where they get their meals, that's where they get their favorite treats, favorite toys, whatever reinforcement you want to put in there to make it more likely that your bird's going to enjoy spending time in its crate.
What'd you learn today?
Definitely need to desensitize him to a lot of different things by a scale. So we make sure we're training during the appropriate times and not just whatever during the day. So that way we have, the maximum training that we can get.
Awesome. The 3 things that we write for every morning session is the bird's weight, the behavior we're working on, and then the motivation level on a scale of 1 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's really gonna help you figure out how to dial that weight to, like with Blueberry, it's 1 or 2 grams. 2 grams, she thinks she's starving. 1 gram's like, oh yeah, she's gonna be great. And if she's 31, like, we'll be lucky if she'll fly to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that fine-tuned where we can just know, but having that really measurable goal, I think, is really important.
One of the things we really heavily emphasized to Tiffany is that she has a great bird. Like, Cosmo is awesome. He's obviously well desensitized to a new area. He wasn't overwhelmed. He didn't show excessive fear. He was willing to work through some things that were a little bit uncomfortable. And we just need to work through those uncomfortable things with them so that they aren't accumulating fears. Overall, I really feel like this video just highlights the importance of not only crate training, but really setting up the proper diet and being able to track your bird's weight and motivation correctly so that you're not led astray. One of the things that Tiffany is definitely gonna go home and do is get a gram scale so that she can track her bird's weight and be sure of whether or not it's motivated. If you need some help in this area, check out our diet conversion tips and tricks and courses and digital downloads and consultations on our website at birdtricks.com, along with our weight journal. Please get rid of the space between those 2 words. Parrots are the 3rd most popular pet in the entire world, yet the #1 most rehomed. If you're interested in joining our mission of saving parrots 1 person at a time, visit birdtricks.com to learn more about our parrot training courses, organic bird food, all-natural parrot toy line, and much, much more. When we know better, we do better. It's through you that we can help people offer only the best quality products to their parrots, along with the knowledge they need to live in harmony with their birds through permission-based training. Visit birdtricks.com today to learn more.